All right. Let's do question 12. See how far we can go. Um, I'll just start with you, Hilda, then Rudolph. It says you are permitted to conduct security assessments and penetration testing without prior approval against which AWS resources. Select two.
You are permitted to conduct security access um, and penetration testing without prior approval against which AWS resources. If we look at the question, they're talking about security assessment and testing. Um, when you want to use any of the AWS resources, and if you look at the resources given, the answers given, you see that we have Amazon RD, relational database, we have the IAM, we have S3, which is storage bucket, we have AWS security token service STS, and then we also have the Amazon Aurora. From our question, the two selected answers, I think we'll go with the RDS because before which is talking about the relational database it's one of the um it's one of the database that we one of the resources that if you want to get into AWS, you have to go through the process of testing as well as Amazon and Aurora, which deals with SQL and PostgreSQL. So he has to also go through the process of testing. So the answer is A and the last one.
Yeah, the last one. But
Yes.
what are the key concepts in this question? Just read your question again.
The,
What is key? What do you
the, key,
understand?
the key concept is security, assessment, and testing, penetration testing.
So you are permitted to conduct security assessments and penetration testing.
Yes.
Because the question is, what is that actually? What is security assessment penetration testing? What is that? We need to be sure what that is. I mean, I'm just trying to throw that for
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think penetration testing is something like if you are getting into a market. I want to use marketing terms now. So if you're getting into a system, you you kind of do prior before before going into cloud. I think they could go through a period of testing the resources. Don't know if I'm making
Okay.
sense.
Okay. No, we'll talk about that. No worries. Um, do you have anything to add on that, Rudolph?
I just know that there's a list of resources which has been listed by AWS, where these resources you can, without prior assessment, you can be able to conduct security assessment penetration tests without any prior approval. So they have just listed them based on, I don't really know on which basis actually, but I know that Aurora and RDS are amongst, like, as well EC2, CloudFront, and some others.
Mm.
But these three here are not amongst.
Okay. Right. Okay, it's one of those questions where you either know or you don't know, which is both of you are correct. But what I wanted us to discuss, because as I say, as we go along, it's always an opportunity to learn what some of the things you will come across, right? Because Penetration testing. But did you know what that is, Rudolph? Did you also try to also check or what concept do you have about it?
So I have not checked about that really.
Okay. It's like when you are doing, when you are allowed to do some sort of simulated uh, cyber attack. You know, for example, AWS have Shield to prevent against DDoS, but there are some services where you can simulate some kind of cyber attack on the services. So penetration testing is actually when you are, it's actually done by, you call it ethical hackers. Let me see. Let's see what this will say. Yes, penetration testing is when you or security experts intentionally try to hack into your own AWS system. You know, you are trying,
Okay.
so penetration testing is like you are trying to hack the system. Because if you can hack the system, it means it's the system has vulnerabilities. It means the system has loopholes. It's like trying to put a virus on your computer. And if you succeed, then you know that your computer is not well protected. So
Yeah.
normally AWS ban anyone from doing that. And if you have to do it, you have to get approval. But then there are some services that if you want to do that kind of trying to hack, so AWS allow you if you want to hack Amazon RDS, if you want to hack Amazon Aurora, if you want to simulate a cyber attack on RDS or on Aurora, you can do that without them approving, right? But for the other services, you will need approval. And the reason is because remember, if you are doing cyber attacks, AWS have distributed denial of service. They will immediately see that thinking that this is an attack and they will be trying to block it, something like that. So for these services, again, let's look back here. So you know how in Lagos or Accra market, some shop owners will hire their trusted friends to pretend to be a thief. You understand? They tell
Yeah.
and say, try break into my shop, make us see where are weak. You know, you ask someone, if you try to break into my shop, I'll see where I have a problem. The friend go try all the windows, test the locks, maybe even try switch off the security guard, or to find the weak points before real thieves come. So after they test, the friend go write report, say, oh, guy, your back window easy to open, or your padlock not toy. That's actually what penetration testing is. You try, so AWS allow people to do that on their this thing. So no, yeah, no prior approval needed. You can perform it on 8 permitted service, EC2, RDS, Lambda, API Gateway, CloudFront, Aurora, and others without asking AWS first. You cannot do DNS, zone walking, or RAW 53, distributed denial of attack, spot flooding. So these are the ones that you cannot still do. So you cannot even run a distributed denial of service attack on these services. They will allow you to do other attacks, but not these ones. Yeah. Maybe it's also good to keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Let me
because they
just
can also set which are those resources that you
attacks.
could not or you
Yes.
cannot do an penetration testing
Yes.
to.
Yes. So these are the activities that you cannot do. You cannot do Route 53, DNS, spot flooding, protocol flooding. These are some words you'll get used to with time. But let me just put these key points here on chat. What you can do with, yeah. So that's it. There are some sample questions here. Right. So that's what penetration testing. So the other ones it then becomes obvious. Okay, these are permitted services, prohibited activities. It's the same thing we have. Yeah. Okay.
Then say this. There's a
Mm-hmm.
concept that I don't know what it is, like
Which
the
one is that?
AWS Security Token Service, STS.
STS Security Token Service. That's the service that's always giving you temporary credentials, right? Let me show you. STS is Security Token Service. When you create a role in AWS, we have learned about IAM role. And we said that IAM role always have what? Temporary credentials, right?
Yes.
This temporary credentials is made up of the identity and access key and the secret key. But we remember that for the I am user, we were able to always go and show where to create the keys. I don't know if you remember. Let me see if I can just point that on the console again. And I can still sign this. So if you remember that, so let me show you what that is. If you remember when we go to IAM, if I go to IAM users, I have a couple of users here. You know, for all these IAM users, I have tokens here, password age. Okay, I need to, my password has not changed in a long time. But I have different IAM users here. Let me say I take this IAM user. I did show that if you come to security, there's a place to access keys. I can create access keys for this user. If we remember, I did something like this, right? Access keys that you can use. We use access keys when we want to use them on the command line. That's the access key ID here and the secret access key. They are always in pairs. So when you have an IAM user, you can create these keys and they are called permanent keys because they are attached to a user. But for a role, we did learn about IAM role, which is you give it to service A so that service A can be able to talk to service B, right? So we use what is called IAM roles. They don't use IAM user. But for IAM roles, in order to talk, they need to have, for service A to talk to service B. When I say so, think of, you want an EC2 instance to maybe talk to an S3 bucket. The S3 bucket needs to give permissions to the EC2 instance that yes, you can talk. But before that happens, the EC2 instance need to authenticate to show that it is really the EC2 instance that is it is, because everything always starts with authentication. So the EC2 instance always need um, credentials, the access keys. These access keys are not like the one for an IAM user. So the security token service is the service that is in charge of giving credentials to things like roles, right? So what is going to? So let me show that here. Let's read that. Is that clear? Did that help you that before I check here also? For any question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a service that helps to give that gives those credentials. So security token is like a temporary pass system for AWS. Instead of giving someone permanent AWS credentials, like full-time keys to an account, just like an IAM user will get permanent access keys, STS gives out temporary security credentials that work at a limited time. So these credentials will work for 15 minutes and then they'll stop. And if the EC2 instance still needs it, they will be given, could be 2 hours, 36 hours. They're only temporary. So these temporary credentials are what is called, it could be access keys, ID, secret access keys, as I was showing. There's something also called security token and an expiration time. So it can also answer. So think of it as borrow my access for a small time instead of here, keep my password forever.
Okay.
Right. So STS is in charge of giving those temporary credentials. Just borrow me my access for a small time, but I will not give you my password forever. It's like, okay, I think a good analogy coming to my mind. Imagine you have a computer, you need to sign in with your password before you go somewhere, you need to sign in with a password before you use it. Then a friend wants to use that computer. You say you just sign in and allow the friend to use it, and then he goes away and you come back instead of giving the password to sign in the computer. That's what they have just explained. All right, it's a good one. Yeah. So temporary credentials only. STS never gives permanent access. STS will only give temporary credentials. credentials automatically expire at a time. And we are actually encouraged to use more of roles because permanent keys, people have made a mistake, and you see these permanent keys like this. Well, what am I trying to show? If you make a mistake, like I'm showing you, you see that's why it is never shown. If you make a mistake and you have an IAM user that is configured with admin access, and someone get access to these keys offline, let's say people have made a mistake and put this on GitHub or in places where they should not be, and if someone gets this, it means they have access to your account. People can go in and start doing Bitcoin mining, and you'll get a bill. People have come out. If you check online, you see situations where people have had high bills on AWS and it's on your credit card. Someone can just deploy something. If you have not set up any alarms on you'll be sitting there not knowing. It's only at the end of the month you just realize a very big bill. So these IAM users are very dangerous. When you are using it, you never put it out, you never show someone. And that's why the secret key is never shown and you only download. If you don't download it now, you'll never see it again. This is like you have your email address. Everyone can know your email address, but no one should know your password, right? It's the same
Yes.
thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's why.
So in that instance where you make a mistake and your password is public and someone gets into your account and incurs some heavy bills, is there where you can file a complaint or something else to be done?
No, you'll be very lucky if AWS considers, because anyone, yeah, they will in some cases, but it will be a long way to prove that. And again, if it is, then it's still AWS will still put it as your privacy, because that's not something. Let me not say they will still put it. Maybe they may manage something or help somehow, but it's a challenge. It's just like, yeah, don't leave the door to your house open, because if thieves come in, yeah, even if you can go to the police, but you will lose a lot and you may never recover everything. So, what can happen is that's why AWS makes it possible. If you remember, we talked about the best way for access keys is that you should always rotate them. So
Yeah.
one way, if you suspect that someone has these keys, it's good to just delete this one already. Let me show you again how we do rotate. So we did talk about rotating keys. If someone has those keys, so if I create these keys and I realize, okay, this is it. You see, I realize these are my keys. These I have now only the access key, the password is on my key. But if I realize, if I suspect, then you have to immediately come in here and deactivate it. Deactivating means their keys are no longer working. So if someone have it, they cannot use it again. And if you really need new access keys, then you create new access keys. So this is what it means by rotating keys. I'm going to rotate. So I'm going to create new access keys, right? If you notice, this key will be different from the one that I have. I have now two keys. Notice, I have now, this is the old one. It is inactive. I've created now new key. It is like I suspect someone is using my password for my email address, but the difference is I changed my password, but in this case, in changing my password, I also changed my username. And then I have now a complete new set. This one is now inactive and I can silently delete it, So whoever had it cannot be able to use it, and I have that. So that's one way that if you are working and you there's an immediate suspect that someone have the keys, rotate immediately and then create new ones. At least it will stop anyone from accessing the account if they were using. And you can always figure out if someone is using, right? So you see everything is connected. You can always go to CloudTrail and you will see whoever access your account. And when I say whoever, you see whichever access key access the account, and which IAM user access the account, and which if it was command line, you also notice that. Because here you see it shows that I access by console login. So if someone joined by command line, I'll see it. I'll be able to see the time and date they did so, and I may even see the IP address. But In some cases, you may point to where that person location is, but to figure out who that person actually is. Okay, so good question. It helps us touch many things. So let's hope. Yeah. So that's penetration testing. That is STS. Right. Which service does security assessment for vulnerabilities in the system? And
Shield.
no, automatic security assessment for vulnerabilities. And we'll also be able to figure out which ports are open unintentionally. There's one service that does.
Security assessment for vulnerabilities is the WAF.
Wow.
No,
No
it's
one.
not WAF.
Then it should be inspector.
Yes, it's inspector.
Yes, inspector.
Right, so
Inspector.
it's inspecting. Right, so security assessment, an inspector always come and do security assessment to see if there are vulnerabilities in your system. So while penetration testing is trying to hack to see, the inspector is actually inspecting the system to see, but the other one is trying to instead hack, like trying to break to see where it can break. But the other one is just looking, do we have any places that are open? So I wanted to say Amazon inspector. So what is it? I just want you to, those are very important services you should know. So, you see, I always, each time, that's how I deal then. When I always see security assessment, I know it goes with, if it's vulnerabilities automated, I know it's inspector. There's no service that has that definition. You know, you see Amazon inspector, automated security inspector, and it's looking for what is kind of vulnerabilities in your applications. So it will scan EC2, think of it like a virus scanner. It will check for software vulnerabilities and network exposure, right? And then it will give you a detailed report of what it has seen. You see, a company wants to automatically identify security vulnerabilities in their EC2 instances. Which service should they use? That's how it will appear in the exam. You see, automatically identify security vulnerabilities in their EC2 instance. It also have to do with what just happened. It also has to do even container workloads. That's what I wanted. We did cover containers. So notice that it's automated security assessment. It's looking at the scanning EC2 instance, container workloads, and looking out for vulnerabilities. Yeah. So it is inspector, but it's not guard duty. Guard duty is something else. BC also is something. Yeah. Okay. So this is for you, Rudolph. In the AWS shared responsibility model, whose responsibility is to patch the host operating system of an EC2 instance?
Patching the host operating system should be the duty of AWS.
Okay.
Yeah.
You agree, right?
Yes.
We are patching the host operating system. Okay, let's see.
Because we have
That's
two
true.
systems. We have the guest and the host. The guest is for the customer, and then the AWS is for the host.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was easy, I think. So it was much more clear now. So an e-commerce company launches several EC2 instances to run their web application. Which of the following services can be used to help ensure security compliance? Select two. So this one requires two answers. So that's for you, Hilda. Yeah.
E-commerce company launches several EC2 instances to run their web application. Which of the following services can be used to help ensure security compliance? I know when we talk about security, we just talked about the inspector, AWS inspector. We also um um CloudFormation is deploying this thing. So CloudFormation, I don't think CloudFormation is the answer. Amazon MQ, my query. I don't think it is. So I'm working with AWS Trusted Advisor, AWS System Manager, and Amazon Inspector. So, but I'll go for AWS System Manager and Amazon Inspector. I'm not quite sure about AWS System Manager, but I know it also works for security.
Okay,
So my
okay,
answer is A and B.
okay. Any comments, Rudolph?
An EC2 comments. Company launches several EC2 instances to run their web application. Which of the following services can be used to help ensure security compliance?
So what's the key phrase here? To ensure what?
Yeah,
Security compliance, right?
security
Yes.
compliance. And then there is also which of the following services can be used to help ensure security compliance? Yeah, I also support Hilda, inspector and system manager. Trusted advisor.
Okay. Okay, let me answer the answer and then both of you will be surprised. What is
I
trusted
want to
advisor
choose
for?
AWS Trusted Advisor because it checks security. Oh my God.
Yeah, because you see that's the thing. Is the question
Security,
is
it checks
security
cost of
compliance.
optimization and performance as well as fault and service. No, the question is kind of tricky.
No, you have to just know, right? If they say you want to do, when you have, for inspector, was that very clear or someone was doubting?
We did not doubt Inspector. I did not
Okay,
doubt Inspector.
yeah, I
I
just want,
told that
okay,
between AWS System Manager
okay,
and Trusted Advisor, that's
yes.
the two.
Because we always have to make sure that what's the question talking about. If I want to ensure security compliance, inspector, what is inspector doing? It's inspecting to see if there are any security, any vulnerabilities, if there are any ports that are open. So I'm doing compliance check, right? It's an inspector.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Trusted advisor works in 5 categories. It checks security, right? How is your
Yes.
security doing? It checks cost optimization, operational excellence, the one you found here.
Yeah.
And all of those 6 categories.
Mhm.
So security is one of the checks that trusted advisor does. System manager is doing something else. When we did discuss system manager,
Yeah, we discussed, I
just
remember.
yes, it's a management solution. If you want to deploy things on even on hybrid on the, it's about deploying this thing, managing, uh,
You
let's say
see,
patching Windows. It has nothing to do with security. We didn't touch security there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
So right, just always be patient with the question, and before you really say, okay, this is this one, really ask yourself if you are having some doubt, just stop and think because I know we were just on a question that listed a set of things that does trusted advisors support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will easily see that one of that is not there. But if you have a question where trusted advisor has to be the answer and you miss it, then that it's coming from the other end. So that's where it's important to to always check. Um, but can you ever hear me very well?
Yes.
Yes, clear.
Okay, I'm surprised because I'm not using my. Okay, I don't know. This changed. I'm not using my. I just noticed that my standby mic is not. So it's good if you hear me well, right? So just try to look things. Always look things from different angles. If I were to ask the things that trusted advisor does, I'm sure you people will have just listed to me.
Yes,
Actually,
definitely. We know service,
Limit,
we know
yeah,
performance, service limits, fault tolerance, and
uh-huh. Yes,
security. Yes, all those.
yeah, no worries. So, I mean, that's why we do revision so that you see things from different angles. Yeah. Okay, so back to you, Rudolph. As an AWS customer, what offering do you naturally inherit from AWS after you sign up?
as a customer, what it naturally inherits,
So think about what's that inherit.
yeah, what you really inherit from AWS, all responsibilities in enforcing security and compliance policy, all data you store in and retrieve from. Maybe you scroll up a little bit.
Ah, yeah.
Let's see if it's 5.
Yeah. Okay. All the best practices of AWS policy architecture and operational policy built to satisfy all the hardware and software that you provision in it. The answer is C. All the best practices of AWS policies, architecture, and operational processes built to satisfy your requirement.
Yes.
The others for me are just distraction.
Okay. Okay. I hear you support right here.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. So that's correct. All best practices of AWS architecture and operational process being to satisfy requirements. Okay.
Oh, they are okay.
Not much to handle there. It's correct. Yeah. Okay. Well, so this for you is in compliance with the Sarbanes-Oxley federal law, a US-based company is required to provide SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports of its cloud resources. Where are these AWS compliance documents located?
Um, AWS Audit Manager, no. AWS Government Cloud, no. AWS Certificate Manager, no. It's located in AWS Artifact.
See AWS artifact. Let's talk about that for you. I mean, I'm saying,
The AWS Artifact provides it's a compliance report. It comprises of compliance reports and agreements and provides on-demand access.
mhm, yeah, no, that's fine. I was just asking Rudolph if he has any comment as well.
It's where actually compliance documents are being stored.
Stored.
Yeah. So it's the correct option is the C.
Mhm. Okay, both of you are quite up to me. Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. So I think that's one of the questions we had earlier on when we did artifact as well, which is discussions we had. So which of the following is part of the best practices in securing your AWS account? That's for the knowledge track. That's what we do. Right?
Best practices in securing AWS account. Grant most privilege. It should be the opposite. Always manually define permission to each and every individual IAM user. Not manually, no. Enable MFA only on the root account. Enable MFA only on the root account. No. Create an IAM user with administrative privileges instead of using root user of using the root. Correct.
Okay.
Last option.
The best.
The last option. What do you think?
Yes, I think creating an IAM user with the admin privilege instead of using the root users, because I remember the first time I created the root users, you told me to create an IAM because I will not be using my root users often. I have to use my IAM user. So I think it is the best practice
Mm,
for securing your AWS account.
okay, that's fine. That's what we discussed. Very correct. Okay, all right. We're on track. A customer needs to identify the IAM user who terminated their production EC2 instance in AWS. Which service should they use in this situation? That's what you. So just read the question. Try to think about.
The customer needs to identify IAM user who terminated their production EC2 in AWS. Production EC2. This service should be used in this situation. Often we know that when when we talked about terminating something, we have to do with like to track um, the who does the termination. Like there is this auditing, tracking users' activities when in an AWS account. For instance, the API call log and for use cases is for securities and compliances. So if we want to look at the various answers that has been given to us, we see that the answer is in CloudReal, not CloudWatch, not Amazon TimeStream. Neither is it application stream, but it's CloudReal because CloudReal is the service that is being used to audit and track users' activities on our AWS account. So anything that has to do with termination or security, I think AWS CloudReal.
CloudShare.
CloudReal, thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. Any other thoughts? Rudolph, that's for you. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I also support the answer because it's talking about you have to go to the history of the account, what transpired. So to go to that, you have to follow the CloudTrail gives you that information.
Mhm.
CloudWatch is mainly about monitoring and providing managing your account, which is not what has happened in the past. Essentially managing what is happening in the account. And it might provide you metrics that you may use to be able to understand properly. So, and also Amazon Upstream talks about also managing this, I think, desktop applications in the desktop, centrally managing them. That's what Upstream is talking about. And TimeStream is as well talking about events happening specific time that an event happened. But to really understand what had transpired in the past, you have to go for CloudTrail.
Okay. That's fine. Time stream, I hear you try to do. Do you have an example of time stream? Who can you
Like
remember?
weather, like where you want to
Yeah.
dictate weather, you told us.
Yeah, when you want to collect records of weather, right? Like
Yeah.
it's raining. What am I saying? Like weather data. Time stream is happening at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I mean, weather they always kill it every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. But yeah, weather is correct. Collecting data for time, that's time series data. So it's a database. Amazon time series is actually a database. It's a fully managed time series database for IoT, operational, and real-time analytics workloads that stores data that changes over time. Okay. Yeah, so it's a database. Yeah. So for collecting, you are collecting weather data, for example. Now, upstream is for application streaming, as the name says, upstream. So think, for example, most people now use Word in a kind of a streaming mode. Because before you used to buy Word, you have to install it on your computer. I mean, the Word application, PowerPoint, and all of those. But I think maybe everyone here now has a Microsoft account. And when you buy a computer, and then you just get Word, kind of like we are using Word when you have the Microsoft account. If you don't have it, you have to install it manually. But no one still, I don't know if Microsoft even sell the document, sell their CDs or the software license. So we are all using applications now from a streaming kind of way. It's in the cloud somewhere. It can be streamed. Like just think like you want to use Firefox, but you don't want to install it. You get into you have an application that it will just be streaming from somewhere. It's not installed in your computer, but you are using it, right? So, and most of those stream applications, you access them over a browser. So most applications are becoming browser based. When you go to a browser, I'm trying to imagine what other example I can give you. You can then just access it and start using it. Yeah. So that's streaming application. That's what upstream is. So desktop application. Okay, thanks all. Which of the following services is true for CloudTrail? That's for you, Rudolph. No,
Okay.
we're talking CloudTrail. So
Which of the following is true for CloudTrail? CloudTrail charges you for every management event trail created. No, I think you are charged for the first, if I'm not mistaken, but not every. CloudTrail is able to capture application error logs from
You're not charged for it.
from your Amazon EC2 instance. Application errors. No. CloudTrail is disabled by default for newly created AWS account. Is disabled by default for newly created AWS account. By default, it is not disabled. Newly created account, it is not disabled by default. When you create a trail in the AWS Management Console, the trail applies to all AWS regions by default. Yes. The last option.
okay. When you create a trail, AWS Management Console, the trail applies to all regions by default. Okay. So that's not true, you see. Yeah.
Real.
Last option.
Yes.
Right, that's true.
Um, when you create a trail, right, a cloud trail, you don't pay you pay for you are not being charged for the first, right?
For the first one,
The first record, the first usage.
no, you are paid because it's stored in AWS. We may look at cost. It's stored in the trail is stored in S3 bucket. So you are going to pay, like if I come here to create a trail, you see it's stored in an S3 bucket and you will be paid for that. So but it's never anything wrong to me for cloud share pricing. If you want to see details on pricing, the cloud share pricing depends on how you collect and store your logs. The first copy of management events is always free. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So the first copy of management events, notice there are two types of events. You can be copying management events or something called data events. I don't want to get to that. But for additional logs or deeper analysis, you pay based on the volume of data delivered on S3, query through Qualec and all of that, right? So the first copy of ongoing management events within a region is free. Any subsequent copies are this, yeah. Right. Yeah, this is it's good to have details, but at times, yeah, it's good to have. It shows you look a little bit deep, but most of the time with pricing, or if you are thinking about the exam, they really go into pricing details. Yeah, but it's good to have. I myself, there are some pricing that each time I want to know, I always just check immediately online. Yeah. But go to have. So is the management events. If it's data events, it will cost you this, but I did not even remember exactly what the pricing looks like. Okay, that's why it's always good teaching. At times you keep realizing new things as well. So, which other question do we have? This back for you, Hilda. What is the most secure way to provide applications temporary access to your AWS resources?
Create an IAM user access key and assign it to your application. If they're saying temporary access, create an IAM policy that allows application to access the resources and attach a policy to your application. Create an IAM group that has access to the resources and application. Create an IAM role and have the application assume the role. I think D is the last one because we're talking about what is the most secure way to provide application temporary access to our AWS.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you say D.
Yes.
Okay, Rudolph, you want to add anything? Any thoughts?
I support the option D because it's talking about temporal access, secure, provide secure and temporal access. It should be the
Yes.
IAM role. Yeah.
Usually you see temporary access, just start looking for IAM role. Those are key things.
Yes.
And then, yeah,
Or
so it
temporary
is,
credentials.
yes, applications, temporary access, an application, or even you can see something, say an auditor wants to access your account. You know, at times they are not going to access it directly because they mention temporary access, everyone knows IAM role. But in real life, if I'm an auditor, I want to come and audit your AWS account. The question is, which access will you give me? You have to remember that it's an IAM role you give me because an auditor is doing just temporary work. And also, he's not even also in your institution. You create an IAM role that have just read access because temporary, if he's going to do audit, he just wants to audit the account and see which AWS services are used. So he should not be able to have, he should not have a role that can make him create anything. He can have a role that can allow him read what is in the account. So at times you have questions, they talk about an auditor coming to audit an account, which credentials will you give, or which access will you give? You mention IAM user, IAM role, and all the rest. So the first thing is you should just step back and think of if someone is an auditor, or you always think when you are going to give someone IAM user, what does that mean? You are giving someone permanent access to your account, permanent credentials. Is that what you can give an auditor who is just coming to do audit work and go? Does not make sense. You are giving him way too much access, which is not following the principle of this privilege. Does it mean that you cannot give him an IAM user? Of course you can, but it's not following the principle of this privilege. If you give an auditor IAM user account, of course he will access the account, he will do the work, and you just have to pray that he shouldn't do more than he's supposed to do. But AWS will find that as a very best practice. And if it is an exam you will fail, it is an interview, you definitely don't know what least privilege is. But so you always have to just listen a little bit. You don't know at times if you're when you have questions at times, don't overthink about the technology or just be looking like, this question, what is the answer? Just refresh and try to imagine the scenario. Okay, this is an auditor. How long is he going to be at the company? Okay, or you ask yourself, what do IAM rules really do? They give temporary access. What do IAM business do? They give permanent access keys. Now I have an auditor. He has come to do some work. He's definitely not going to be permanent. Should I give IAM role or permanent access? Then you just realize that the answer just can't be very clear in your mind. The groups and policies are then just big distractors.
Mhm.
So
And
always
also, we think about the least privilege method, right?
yes, because in the IAM role you configure list it's not least privilege method, it's principle of least privilege where you always give people just the permissions they deserve and nothing
Yeah.
more. Yeah. Okay. That's correct. So we're all good there. Which of the following policies grant necessary permissions required to access Amazon S3 resources? Select two. That's for you, Rudolph.
Permission required to access Amazon S3 resources. There are only two permissions that are required to access S3 resources, and those are the bucket policy and the users policy.
Okay. Any thoughts from you, Hilda? You have any different thoughts?
The bucket and the users policies are the two required.
Okay.
I mean,
Can someone give me an analogy to explain that they understand this? How did I explain this? Anyone remembers? I've forgotten. Okay, I'm going to make it easy. I used to say this is a bucket. This is Mr. John. He wants to come and access this party house. This is Peter. This is John. They are all coming to this party house. Which can someone explain which one uses a bucket policy or an analogy that uses a bucket policy and an analogy that uses a user policy?
Okay, one has an Ivy ticket.
A what ticket?
A ticket, an invitation ticket.
Invitation. Ivy. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
And one is maybe I've forgotten the other, but one is one.
What would this one has invitation? What does John has to attend this party? You people don't go to parties. I thought that was an easy analogy. Or you go to parties and you don't notice what is happening.
One is a VIP and then one is a come by invitation.
Right.
Just
don't know how.
Okay.
Rudolph, how can you see me and then miss the VIP? I thought you already did.
Then you see from there who attends parties and who doesn't.
Rudolph knows only by invitation because he has never been where there's a VIP.
Okay. Yeah, you have been a VIP. Okay, I finally figured out. We need to make sure you attend the next one as a VIP.
Actually.
No. Yeah. So a user policy is someone who has his permissions, he carries it with him. So Peter here is coming, he wants to access this party, but unfortunately he comes by invitation, so he must carry his card. But this is John, he's a VIP, he just coming here, security, because everything in AWS is protected. Security says, are you really present? He says, security first of all has to be careful not to annoy someone. He checks if he has an invitation he doesn't have, he checks the VIP list and then he realizes, John has. Then all of them are in the party. So the VIP is always attached to the bucket. That's why it's a bucket policy. The VIP or the bucket policy permissions are instead written on the bucket. So here, the name of John will be written. So the bucket policy will be written. John is allowed to come in, and maybe John is allowed to create files. John is allowed to delete files. John is allowed. So everything that John is allowed to do will be listed here. This one is coming by invitation. The security will look at him. He will also state, yes, Peter is coming. He has an invitation. He's allowed. But what kind of things can he do? It will be stated in his invitation. He's allowed to create files. He's allowed to read, but he's not allowed to delete, for example. Right? So all when we talk about permissions, is not just being allowed. What you can do is also stated there. Right? Permissions are of course, policies are actually for authorization, right? Authentication is when you are just using, right? So this analogy is a very good, I put it in party way, but if it sticks, you will really appreciate it. So that if someone, because
Yeah.
people always ask, what's user policy, what's bucket policy? But once you are able to explain this many times, it also
Yeah.
make it easy in your mind.
Is a VIP, right?
Sorry?
The bucket policy is the VIP because it's already
Right.
attached to the resources, right?
Yes, yes, the VIP list is always in the hall,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You always
Yeah.
go to the security man always check it inside the hall. The VIP is never out of the hall, so to say, right? So it's
So
attached to the bucket.
when we talk about
So
this scenario, I remember an incident that where I followed up. There was a party at the White House, and
right.
everybody was coming on with all the security, the band of security that were there. There's one guy that get crashed. He just dressed comfortably, portably, and
Yes.
with confidence, he came and passed all those security and went and attended the party and took picture. And they realized, but from the picture, this guy was not even invited. They were asking themselves what happened.
No, yeah, that will not happen. The good thing is in AWS that will not happen. Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, so as you were asking Hilda, right? The VIP
Yes.
list is always in the hall, so the bucket policy is always attached to the bucket, just as it's a bucket policy. The user policy is always carried by the user that wants to access the bucket. Okay, so that was a good one to refresh. Um, I think I should come back here. I just saw something. I did talk something about the bucket policy. When you have a bucket policy, you always see, you see, with the bucket policy, you will always state the principle. I did say this. So the
Yes.
bucket policy here, if you see a policy and you see a principle, just as an S3 bucket. I mean, if you had, it's a bucket policy because it's stating who the user is, just like in the invitation list or in the VIP list. Sorry, in the VIP list, it must state the John. But when someone is carrying the ticket, it does not have the name because if Peter is coming with the ticket, you already know that that's for Peter. No need in writing on his invitation that Peter is allowed to do this and do this. So Peter is omitted. Peter just comes with, I'm accessing this bucket. I can write and I can write and I can create, but I cannot delete. So he just goes with the permissions that he has to do. His name does not have to appear on the ticket. So just keep that in mind. The user policy that someone is carrying does not need to have the person's name written on the policy. It just states what the person can do. So if I were to get a user policy, it will not have my name on it because as long as I hold it, it's for me. So it's automatically known that it is me and I just have the permissions. But on the bucket policy, it's different because you cannot just write the permissions. You have to state who should get those permissions. Do we see the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just take note of. I just saw this. I remember. So the bucket policy always have a principal. Here, the principal is just a fancy name of who the user is going to be. It will give the ARN. It is written long like this because AWS resources don't. We will read this as tutorial dojo. That's the user, but when AWS is processing, it has to read the entire information. So the user has every user has an ARN. Every resource has an ARN. That's why we did talk about that, and that's what AWS is always looking at. It does not like if you look at my IAM users. If you look at every user or every IAM role, it has what is called an ARN. Right? If I click this row, and that's what is always being processed. Do you see this ARN?
Yes.
Yeah, every resource in AWS has an ARN. And that's what AWS uses to process ARN. So when it's like if I have an IAM user, this IAM user, for me, I will say IAM3, but AWS will say, will read this entire line because AWS needs to know which account that is from. Is a user, is IAM, yeah, so go back. Right, so AWS is always read, and when you'll be doing labs, you always see that when you want to refer to a user, you don't just refer this one, you have to go and copy the ARN of that user and share. Yeah. All right. Let's answer one last question and go. A company is using Amazon S3 to store their static media content such as photos and videos. Which of the following should you use to provide specific users access to the bucket? Who can see the answer immediately without thinking?
Yes.
Sorry?
This is which of the following should you use to provide specific users access to the buckets? Already they
Which one?
mentioned the answer already there.
Yeah, tell us what's that.
Policy that.
Okay. You agree, Rudolph?
I agree.
Yeah. All these ones are definitely off.
We store static data media and then they put the bucket. Automatically go with the bucket policy.
Are you sure? I hope that's not the way you are looking.
Yeah.
In this
Not the
case,
way.
it's like that.
Did be the
Yeah.
access to the bucket. They should have used another word at the end. Maybe a policy or something. It would have been a little bit tricky.
Okay. But the question just asks, without all of this, the question is this one. I can still
Yes.
ask, which way can you use to provide specific users access to the bucket? Remember the party again. Which
Yes.
ways can I use to give?
Use either the user's policy or the bucket policy. It's just two. So if
Yeah.
user policy is not there, automatically it's the bucket.
Right. Bucket policy. Okay. All right. No, that's good. Let's stop here. We'll continue tomorrow, but I know that you keep on practicing. Like I say, 5 questions. If you have some 30 minutes, just do 5 questions. Do them slowly. Make sure you capture the facts. And if you can explain them to someone, the better. Just take at the slow pace and let's see where to go to. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Sonia is pleading that you please upload
Send the recording.
the recording as fast as possible.
Okay. Let me just do so now. Immediately I get because it always takes about 30 minutes, then it shows up in the system. I'll try to send that so that she can catch up and then tomorrow
Yeah.
we'll follow. All right. So thank you all. Have a great evening. Talk to
Thank
you
you for me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Bye,
Good night, everyone.
All
Bye,
right.
Rudolph.
Bye.
Bye.